I am like the biggest fan of surrogacy.
I just don't want to do it at all.
Gestational surrogacy has become a new reproductive practice that has given an opportunity to thousands of families around the world. But celebrities have taken it on themselves to turn it into a trend and a dreadful game.
You're making children into commodities. You could almost say it's a form of or something.
Behind this million-dollar industry lies a corrupt world that has taken advantage of millions of vulnerable women. While celebrities end up with the best part, there are people who every day lose their lives.
There were cockroaches running around on the floor. It was incredibly violent. I've never seen anything like it in my life.
This phenomenon has brought to the forefront the debate over whether it is an exploitation of women or a matter of individual freedom. What is behind gestational surrogacy? Which celebs have contributed to the inhumane conditions, and why? This is the story behind the wombs for rent, the new disturbing game of the elite. Gestational surrogacy, or the renting of wombs, is an assisted reproductive method whereby a woman gestates a baby that won't be hers. The technique consists in a couple renting another woman's uterus, and they provide an egg and sperm to be fertilized in the womb of the gestational surrogate. The couple or person that keeps the baby are commonly known as intended parents. After labor, the baby is given to them, and prior to that, there would have been a contract signed by both sides where the surrogate renounces her right to be the mother. Gestational surrogacy began commercially in the 1970s with the arrival of artificial insemination in medicine. In 1980, there would be a case known as Baby M that would change the method forever and end in the worst way. With a contract in place and at the last moment, the woman backtracked and wanted to keep the baby, setting off a long battle in the courts. From there on, gestational surrogacy would be legislated in various places in the United States. In the beginning, the majority of people who turned to this method were couples who couldn't have children, who didn't want to adopt, and even single men and women. However, it was in the 2010s when Hollywood celebrities would begin to make use of this practice in an exponential way and popularize it. Big-name celebs like Nicole Kidman and Sarah Jessica Parker would be the first to use the method. This allowed women in the industry to ensure that pregnancy wouldn't be physically or emotionally invasive, so as to stay active in the working world.
I feel like a lot of my peers and people my age were so focused on career and hitting these life goals, and we're so afraid of losing identity. I certainly was. You know, I don't want to just be known as a mom, and I don't want to have to make these sacrifices, and I don't want to lose everything that I've worked for.
Beginning in 2012, this method would catch on in Hollywood and become a norm among celebrities. However, this trend was far from being peachy keen. Initially, it was thought that the practice was mutually beneficial. Celebs could continue their lives and the gestational surrogates would receive large sums of money. But this trend helped form an industry that would begin to take advantage of the surrogates and the million-dollar agreements.
Cost of surrogacy, only a small part actually goes to the gestational carrier, and then there's also costs associated with the agency and lawyers and insurance, and it all adds up, but the gestational carrier only gets a portion of that.
This method of assisted reproduction is extremely privileged. Prices can vary between $55,000 to $200,000, depending on the country where it's carried out. With advances in the technology, surrogacy would become exclusive to celebrities, and according to Global Market Insights, with the use of social media and its popularization on television, it is estimated that by 2032, the market will grow from $14 billion to $129 billion. However, behind the opportunity to build a family are emotional, ethical, and health considerations that are completely devastating. People begin to forget that there is a person behind the process and that women and babies would turn into commercial goods. Various celebrities have turned to rented wombs. In the last decade, celebs like Priyanka Chopra and Nick Jonas Cristiano Ronaldo, Alec Baldwin, Elton John, and Jimmy Fallon have made use of this method for reasons that range from fertility problems to mere convenience. The iconic Kardashian family has been key to popularizing the practice. The first of them was Kim, who had Chicago and Psalm, her third and fourth children, via this method. Even though many cybernauts and media outlets assumed that she was doing it out of vanity, that is to say, to not ruin her body, in reality she had a much deeper reason. The socialite suffers from a medical condition called placenta accreta, which occurs when the placenta becomes too attached to the uterus and complicates the separation, and thus the childbirth. To save her life as well as that of her future baby, she would turn to gestational surrogacy, although she'd face a major dilemma. Kim could not comprehend having a baby that would not be gestated in her own body.
Like, I'm seriously so grateful for her, and that someone is just so, like, selfless and kind to do this. Really is so much more difficult of a situation than you could really imagine.
Her sister, Khloe Kardashian, would also suffer from the same problem years later, bringing her to use the same method to bring into the world Tatum, her second child. She would also face the dilemma of feeling disconnected with the woman who carried her baby.
I felt really guilty that, like, this woman just had my baby, and I take the baby and then I go to another room and you're sort of separated. Like, I felt it's such a transactional experience.
But in spite of everything strange about the process, they would end up endorsing it, which would help it become an even more murky and sinister industry.
I think it was such an amazing experience. I would recommend it for anyone. I am like the biggest fan of surrogacy.
But the Kardashians' reality isn't the same for all celebrities. In fact, various women have used it to simply prevent their bodies from changing. Another case in particular is that of Paris Hilton. After getting married in 2021 to Carter Room, the socialite began to experience tremendous social pressure and from the media to have children. Her own mother would float the rumor that she was having fertility problems, something that Paris would deny. It was her own husband who convinced her to have children.
When do you want to have a baby, by the way? Carter wants right after the wedding. That's why we're rushing.
We'd have to get him in the oven January, February, March, because I really want kids that are old for their class, because then they're good at sports, then they get more confidence.
However, the last thing Hilton wanted to do was get pregnant. The star very much feared going through this process due to the changes she'd have to face, such as giving up her travels and work, and the trauma of childbirth, basically everything that comes with being pregnant.
I just don't want to do it at all. Get a surgeon.
But there are other celebrities that have been brutally criticized. Jamie Chung, actress from movies like Grown Ups and The Hangover Part 2, has been very upfront about the birth of her children and has admitted that the reason she chose surrogacy was because she didn't want to miss out on opportunities in the industry. According to her, women are immediately forgotten when they step away from acting. And even though the reason is extremely valid for many, there's one case that has left many irked to their core. Jeff Lewis, an American designer and TV personality, along with his former partner, filmed their surrogate mother in order to later use it in an episode of his reality show, Flipping Out. Not only did he decide to film it, but he also made fun of the woman for something so natural like not shaving her intimate parts, as if the whole process was just a big game. Meanwhile, in the Spanish-speaking world, there were also cases like that of Miguel Bosé and Ricky Martin, who decided to use the method given that their partners are men. However, the most controversial of all has been the Spanish actress Ana Obregón. She was severely criticized for having used the practice to become a mother at 68 years old. This was hardly the only controversy, as in Spain, the procedure is illegal, but others also alleged that it was highly irresponsible to become a mom at such an age, considering the probability that she could pass away while her baby was young is much higher. But this world of celebrities and surrogacy is only the tip of the iceberg of a shadowy industry that for years has mistreated women. Gestational surrogacy is illegal in a number of countries around the world. including Spain, Australia, and the United Kingdom, among others. However, it's not a problem for people with loads of money, as they can simply look abroad and obtain the permits. The prohibition hides a dark reality and murky business. In 2015, Thailand had to prohibit maternal surrogacy abroad after an Australian couple abandoned one of their twins due to the child having Down syndrome. Countries like Ukraine also were a popular option thanks to their low costs, but it would stop after war broke out. Nonetheless, Mexico, India, and Georgia are unfortunately the main countries where surrogates live in the worst conditions. Georgia, a country located at the intersection of Europe and Asia, is one of the 4 countries in the world where it's legal to pay a woman to give birth to a baby for another person. It costs $12,000, a fourth of what it costs in the United States, and between 80 and 100 surrogate babies are handed over every month. Unfortunately, being a low-income country, women turn to this method as a type of job for economic reasons. Nino Lemazashvili, a 39-year-old woman, has had to resort to this method 3 times, as she needed the money to be able to escape a violent relationship she had with her husband.
ეს ჩემი წამლებია, ამას ვიკეთებ მუცელში, ნემსი არის, ამას ვავის არის წამალი იმის რა ქვია, ეს არის კიდე კარდიომაგნილი გულის მუცელში, ფრაქსიპარინ.
Is that every day?
Yeah.
The woman acknowledges that she hasn't undergone the process because she wanted to, and that it is extremely hard to gestate a child and later give it away as if it was a toy.
გრძნობა ის რაც დედა განიცდი შვილების მიმართ იგივეს გრძნობს შეკითხვა ის მე ორგანიზმა ხო იცის რომ მან ხო არ იცის რა სხვისი.
In India, surrogacy was legalized in 2002, and to this day it has become a $1 million business. It's estimated that by 2017 there were around 2,000 gestation centers with over 25,000 babies produced for Western clients. By all accounts, it's difficult to arrive at an exact figure, as it is severely unregulated, opening the door to terrifying practices against women.
I do see surrogacy as an attack on women in many ways, because it is being propagated in the absence of a law. So we do not even know whether the surrogates are being given the proper care and treatment that they deserve, or who are the parents who are coming in for this surrogacy.
In 2018, the country would make the practice illegal in response to the terrible conditions Indian surrogates were forced to undergo. The women were given contracts in English, which they didn't understand, and they ended up facing medical procedures without their consent, which on numerous occasions included abortions. Another country where it is big business is Mexico. There, millions of tourists arrive each year, and it is one of the preferred destinations to contact surrogacy agencies. A couple from New Zealand, David and Nikki, decided to go to Cancun, as they were promised it had the best conditions. However, the couple would later encounter something terrifying. The surrogacy agency was keeping half of the money. They had been promised that the gestational surrogate would earn $1,600 a month. Not only were they underpaying her, she also endured serious problems during the pregnancy and was denied medical attention. The baby would end up being born in a different clinic.
I was really worried. I was really worried.
Why?
Because it just did not seem clean. There were cockroaches running around on the floor. It was incredibly violent. I've never seen anything like it in my life.
Labor for the woman was extremely traumatic, to the point that she needed urgent medical attention in a real hospital because her life was in danger. But the agency asked the couple for more money, even refusing to transport the baby to save its life. Due to all the complications, David and Nikki ended up paying $120,000 more than they expected. That is to say, nearly $232,000. There are hundreds of women in Mexico that still continue being exploited within this $1 million business.
Fue duro, porque prácticamente di a luz con los medicamentos que me dieron para que salieran y fue algo largo. Tuve contracciones, tuve muchos dolores, sola, en medio de la noche, rodeada de mucha gente, pero sola. en un baño de la casa.
The industry of gestational surrogacy is a new domain which is still being ignored by thousands of countries around the world. Turning a blind eye only worsens the conditions in third world countries that are being used to generate money. Moreover, a debate has emerged around the lives of the babies and how unnatural the process stands to be.
You're making children into commodities. You could almost say it's a form of slavery or something.
Even though having a biological child is something that many wish for, it is important to remember that there are millions of children around the world in adoption centers. Exploiting vulnerable women must stop being an option. Did you know about the murky world of gestational surrogacy?